Well, today I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this video because I'm going to show you, not tell you, show you why my naturally aspirated 5.7 liter V8 mated to a 4.30 rear axle is better than your twin turbo plus or minus hybrid anything small displacement engine with a 10-speed 3.31 or whatever else you want to throw at it up in the mountains. That's right, up in the mountains where we're told turbos beat natural aspiration. I welcome anybody to take their small displacement twin turbo V6 up into the mountains with a RV like mine, towing in through the mountains, and see what kind of miles per gallon they get over the distances that I travel, and then come back and compare it to me. If you like this video, go ahead and hit like, hit subscribe. It helps me know what kind of content to produce in the future. And if you disagree, agree, please comment. I think that's how we all learn. When I read reviews about the Tundra's twin turbo V6, the new GMC 2.7 liter, or Ford's 3.5 liter EcoBoost, now the Power Boost that they've had for a long time now, I hear people frequently cite problems with large naturally aspirated V8 engines versus small displacement turbo V6 engines. When it comes to being under load and towing at elevation, specifically people seem to claim or want to claim, and the scientific theory would support it, that a twin turbo would do better at that higher elevation because of the forced air versus a naturally aspirated engine in thinner air. I'm here to tell you, I don't think it works out that way. As we do this, it's going to be a little bit different than what I've done in the past. Of course, my truck is going to be under load, towing my Lance travel trailer. In this case, it's the 1995, not the 2375. But I'm also going to be looking at higher speed. On Interstate 90 in Montana, where the speed limit is predominantly 80 miles per hour, and I'll be traveling mostly between 75 and 80 while I'm there. We are in Island Park, Idaho, just outside of West Yellowstone, and I want to talk to you about how this Lance did. This is the 1995. This is a 2015. We also have a 2018 2375. A couple things. They tow about the same. Their gross vehicle weight rating is roughly, I think, 1,300 pounds different, maybe 1,250 pounds different. Let's take a look here and see what this one is so we have the exact number. I know the 2375 is 7,000 pounds, and this one is 5,700. Despite the gross vehicle weight rating difference of 1,300 pounds, these two RVs seem to tow the same, most likely due to the same wind sail behind me, whereas the maybe 1,300 pound difference between the two of them is relatively negligible. The other thing that I will say about towing them is I have the same confidence with my Tundra towing each of them. Now, when I tow long distances. Typically, it's not unusual for me to go 600 to 1,000 miles in a day, traveling from Georgia out west and then back again. I do that a few times a year, and I've gone over the results of that in other videos. But in this one, I specifically want to talk about being up at an elevation, because here we are, Yellowstone, which is between 7,000 and 8,000 feet as you're around Yellowstone, and we're going to head over to South Dakota towards Rapid City, which is still roughly a mile above sea level, and we'll see what kind of fuel mileage we get that way. Now, I always hate it when people have a 50-mile leg or even a 100-mile leg, and they want to show you what something does. Here, what I've got is I've got a 625-mile leg from Red Rock RV Park over to the Badlands boondocking area known as Nomad View. I actually drove an additional 5 miles once I dropped my RV off to go back into Wall, South Dakota, and fill it up. I've got my Lance 1995 gross vehicle weight rating of 5,700 pounds, just under 6,000 pounds, with a full tank of water in tow. And if we look over here, I'm traveling from Red Rock RV Park in Island Park, Idaho, up to Bozeman, Montana. I did 104 miles, right at about 55 to 60 for most of the way. As you can see from the time there, we're stopped at a traffic light, had a couple brief stops, and my average MPGs was 11.8. 5 hours total driving time. You can see it says $95, 28.797 gallons. I've gone exactly 300 miles towing my Lance travel trailer over here. I'm gonna go back in and since it stopped us at 95, see how much more. Another 1.605 gallons. We'll add those together and do our math. We left Red Rock RV Park in Island Park, Idaho, with our Lance travel trailer in tow. That was exactly 5 hours ago. We drove through downtown Bozeman. We had some For the first 100 miles, speed limit is between 60, 65, and then through downtown Bozeman and stop and go traffic for a good 10 miles. And now what we have is 75 to 80 out on the interstate here. We'll see what our total calculation was. So on the next leg of this trip, we went 215 miles to Belfort, South Dakota. As you can see there, we used 22.13 gallons. And while we weren't traveling quite as fast as we were on I-90, there were several areas where there was road construction going on and we were stopped and idling for quite some time, but still averaged 9.72 miles per gallon with our travel trailer in tow. From this fill-up, we had exactly 110 miles to get to our final destination for the day, which was Nomad View just outside Badlands National Park. From there, after dropping the rig off, I did drive back with unloaded vehicle 5 miles to fuel up. Here's the receipt from that fill-up. As you look here at this receipt, you can see I used 11.9 gallons to travel, the additional 110 miles loaded plus the 5 miles unloaded in return to fuel up. Now, some of that included climbing Nomad View and idling while I was unloading everything, but it still falls right in line with what we had done previously at right about 9.7 miles per gallon. So in summary, we used about 64.4 gallons to travel 630 miles with a travel trailer weighing just under 6,000 pounds, traveling a good portion of that time at highway speeds between 75 and 80 miles per hour, traveling through stop-and-go traffic in small towns, and also getting delayed by road construction, and still averaged 9.8 miles per gallon. And our best leg, where we first left Island Park on our way up toward Bozeman, where it was predominantly between 55 and 60 that whole way, why we averaged 11.8 for that roughly 100 miles. So as we look around the towns of Silvergate and Cook City here, which are on the eastern edge of Yellowstone up in Montana, I'm going to show you our little trip that we did during the course of a day as we took kind of a big tour one day from our RV park and back. So let's look at how we did in this high elevation area without a tow vehicle. On this particular morning, we left from Red Rock RV Park. We went into the park. We made a stop at Mammoth. Then we drove through Lamar Valley over to the Cook City, Silvergate area, looked around there for a little bit, and then we headed back to Mammoth and then decided we wanted to go up and take a little detour drive on the way back and went up through Bozeman, made a stop over at Big Sky, Montana, and then back down to Red Rock RV Park. Now, to be fair, for the portions of time that we were traveling through the national park in this area, we were traveling mostly between 30 and 45 miles per hour, but it was very much like stop-and-go traffic because we had plenty of bison crossing, we stopped to see elk, we would occasionally stop to get out and look around, we spotted some wolves through our monocular, and this travel trip, a good portion of it was spent that way. Another portion of it, of course, was spent traveling highway speeds up towards Bozeman and back down towards Island Park. What we're going to look at here is the fuel mileage that we got filling up from Mammoth and traveling 207 miles up to Bozeman, over to Big Sky, and back down to Island Park. All of that pretty much highway driving, but some stop and go. So just finished a pretty long drive around Yellowstone and through Montana. You can see there it says my tank average is 19.5. I don't know exactly how many miles the trip was because we've stopped and started a few times, but let's take a look at our most recent leg here. So most recent leg, 18.6 for 56.5 miles, and that's from a trip just outside of Big Sky down to Island Park, Idaho. So as we look around at this wildlife museum inside the Yellowstone Trading Post in Cook City, let me re-illustrate this again. 11.8 miles per gallon when traveling in tow at 55 to 60 miles per hour. 9.8 traveling and stop-and-go traffic and at speeds in excess of 75 miles per hour, and then traveling without any vehicle in tow and for a long distance, 380 miles, some of it stop and go, some of it lower highway, some of it 75, 80 miles per hour on the highway. I average between 18.6 and 19.5 in my outdated, poor mileage getting, naturally aspirated V8 with a 4.3 rear axle. Tell me again how your twin turbo plus or minus hybrid with a 3.31 rear axle is going to beat that in the mountains or not. This is all traveling between 5,000 and 8,000 feet of elevation.